After a stellar career at a GDS and JP Morgan, our next speaker turned to private equity in the travel sector. He led one of the industry's largest transactions in acquiring half of American Express Global Business Travel. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the founder and senior managing director of Certares and executive chairman of Amex GBT, Mr. Greg O'Hara. Welcome, Greg. Thank you. Please.
It's fine.
I found out we have something in common. We both went to the same business school in Nashville.
Yes, and we're standing between that and cocktail hour.
Oh, look at that. But
Here we go, Vanderbilt.
What we don't have in common is the year we graduated, but we won't get into that. So how did you pivot from a GDS executive into private equity? That's not the most logical term.
No. We get asked a version of that question all the time, and I would say it involved a couple of very odd moves. One was I left Sabre when I worked there.
How long were you at Sabre?
About 3 or 4 years in the late 90s. I ended up going back to Canada where I grew up, and I met some great people from Ontario Teachers Pension Plan and Citicorp Venture Capital, and they backed me in the buyout of WorldSpan. When we sold WorldSpan, I left WorldSpan, and I ended up through that's too long a story for today, working in the private equity business at JP Morgan, doing travel deals where we bought Carlson Wagonlit Travel, and we bought Travel Leaders, we bought a bunch of things when we were there.
Yeah.
And one day I ended up in a meeting during the financial crisis, or just before the financial crisis, and I got in the most unintended career move ever. I ended up being one of the chief investment officers at JP Morgan Chase.
Oh, cool.
When I left that job, we started Certares.
Yeah. So if I could only ask you one question, and then we had a fire drill, and the one question would be, where in the world did you get this audacious idea to go to American Express global headquarters and say, hey, I want to buy half of the TMC business?
I started out wanting to buy it all, and they wouldn't sell me it all, but they liked the business plan enough to let me buy half of it. American Express has a long commitment to the travel business. They've actually been in the travel business this year. I think it's 102 years now.
Yeah.
We have a bunch of posters in my office that show business travel, and people are leaving on ships to go from one place to another.
When you first pitched the idea, or did they say you're crazy, or?
No. We had done the same thing at WorldSpan. In 2001, we went to the airlines after 9/11. And if you recall, it was owned by Northwest, American through their ownership of TWA, and Delta. And we did the same thing, only we bought the whole business in that case. But once every 5 years, I come up with something clever.
They say you're pretty good at that, but I'm not going to ask you what you're coming up with next. But when you first learned that Certares could only maybe buy half of Amex GBT, what was your immediate reaction?
It was great. The Amex people have been great to partner with. We're one of the only businesses that carries the Amex name outside of Amex, which is kind of a big deal.
You think?
It was operating in a lot of countries. I think we operate in 143 countries around the world. And it was a great opportunity to build something that I thought was going to be maybe one of a kind.
Yeah. So there are a lot of travel companies at the Phocuswright conference. Mm-hmm. And we'll get into that in a minute, but primarily at travel companies. But Greg, what characteristics would you say that a company that wants to get you interested in investing in them, like what's one or two things must they have, and what are one or two things that if they have it, it's sort of dead on arrival?
Well, I don't know that we have a particular set of criteria that apply to everything, right? Like I would say in business travel, it's different than leisure travel. In river cruising or ocean cruising, it's different than in the concierge businesses or the ticketing businesses. So I would tell you that generally what we want is a strong management team that believes in themselves, that has a definite plan. You want to make good money on your investment, so you want a high return on invested capital.
It's private equity, so it has to be a profitable business.
No.
No?
We've bought a lot of businesses that weren't profitable. We want to plan to make them profitable,
Right.
but it doesn't have to be profitable to start out with.
In that regard, would you say, compared to when you got started or when you're at JP Morgan, that the lines continue to blur between venture capital and private equity?
Yeah, what's interesting, venture capital as a asset class has about a 12% return. Private equity has about a 14% return. So they're pretty similar when you look at it. In venture capital, you have to have investors that are prepared to have big wins and a lot of losses. In private equity, you generally smooth that out where you're not supposed to have any losses if you can avoid it, and you want to have a number of reasonable size wins.
Can we go through the companies that Sataris has invested in? So, AMA Waterways.
Yep. AMA Waterways is a river cruising business, primarily aimed at intergenerational travel. Sometimes older Americans. Great way to go to Europe. We have wine tours and bike trips. We have a fantastic manager in Rudy Schreiner, and the business grows really, really well on an organic basis, and we try to build a couple new ships every year.
You own 100% of that?
No, we own a majority of that, and we have Rudy and two other family partners that were in the business.
And is Guardian Alarm the only non-travel and portfolio company now?
Yeah, it is. So
how did that happen?
There was a sickness in the family that was selling the business. I knew the person socially, and we were able to provide him with an investment. It was when we were first starting out, and it was something our investors felt like we should be doing.
Yeah. And so Travel Leaders?
Travel Leaders, it's probably it's certainly the largest leisure agency in the United States, probably the world. I don't know how anyone measures them anymore, but it's big anyway. And lots and lots of agents in lots and lots of business models, providing an exceptionally high level of service, typically to people who spend a lot of money.
And in France, Marliton, is that?
Marriotton. Marriotton is a French business that does, in France you buy travel slightly differently. The business people typically buy business travel and leisure travel through the same outlet, so Marriotton does both. It's also a small tour operator, and it was kind of the largest thing in France. We've made it, I have a history of investing in France, and France has been really kind to us as a business environment, which most people don't. Their view is not the same, but it's been an awesome experience for us to put money into France. We'd love to put more money there.
And then you're in Portugal and the UAE, correct?
We're in Portugal, we're in the UAE, but most of these businesses, that's where they're located, but they do business all over the world. So there's a nominal headquarters somewhere, and most of them are global.
And other than obvious synergies across the portfolio, introducing companies doing business with you, but do you push further than that because you're almost only in travel?
Well, generally, each manager sets the agenda. One of the things you learn as a young guy, you tell your
That's
first...
you? Are you the young guy? Or you learned?
Was
learned.
You
learned. Okay.
Learned. You're right. Bad tense. As a young guy, is not to give the managers a direction that they disagree with. In general, that generally makes the strategy or the execution fail.
Yeah.
And so the companies are all run independently of one another. They have some common board strategies because we're on the boards of all of them, but they execute their deals. They make deals intercompany if they want to. They don't make deals if they don't want to.
Yeah, but you don't push it or force it or anything.
I wouldn't say force. Sometimes we can say, listen, AMA Waterways is a really good company. Remember that in the agency business, unlike the underlying provider business, we're not delivering a service, we're delivering a service promise, right? So we're saying, we're going to book you on an AMA Waterways trip, Philip, and you're going to have a great time, and here's what you're going to do. And if we can improve our ability to deliver against that service promise at the underlying portfolio companies, the agents tend to sell it more. So that's really the way we get it done.
And any IT platform sharing or anything like that?
We've made some common selections of back office and whatnot, but we don't develop technology at one company and transfer it to the other. To my knowledge, I don't think we've ever
Any
done that.
Centaurus exits yet?
None yet. So all of our money is extremely long tenured. We can partner with corporates for over a decade, which most other private equity firms can't do. They tend to have an investment period and then a harvesting period.
Yep.
Our investment period is unusually long, so that lets us partner with people like American Express or the Schreiner family.
Yeah. I have a couple of names, words I want to throw at you, and just share with the audience what comes to mind.
Okay.
Thomas Cook.
Sad. And likely entirely avoidable.
Yeah, I was at a board meeting the other day, and they said, well, we didn't see it coming. I mean, you have to be like blind for that, right?
Yes. I didn't see it coming. In my opinion, that would be disingenuous.
Yeah.
They got themselves in a situation that was, in my opinion, almost entirely self-inflicted. I think management had the right attitude towards the business, but I don't know that the execution was what they would have done again.
And that one transaction, I forgot what year it was, where they added more brick and mortar.
Co-op.
Oh, man.
Yeah, that wasn't a very good transaction for them. I think, the brick and mortar model works really well in some places. And I think in Australia, for instance, it still works well. In Canada, it still works well. I think the UK was a hybrid. I don't think that, and there's lots of brick and mortar. Hayes in the UK works business. I think it matters about the location. It matters about the business model.
And Travel Leaders, portfolio company, bought, is it in Scotland?
Barhead.
Yeah.
So we bought Barhead Travel. Yeah. It has, it's not that big. It has locations. There are a certain segment of the traveling public. I wouldn't say it's large, and it's definitely shrinking. That likes to go into a store and sit across from someone and discuss where they're going to go on a trip. I don't know that that's sustainable for the long term.
NDC.
I wish it would arrive. It is the most, it's like having a baby and it takes 11 and a half years to get here. And so we keep wondering.
Like an elephant.
Yeah, is that how long an elephant gestates for?
2 years?
We're looking at trying to understand what the airlines want to do with NDC. And we spend a lot of our time talking to them. I would tell you, at least to me, it's not completely clear. I understand some of the things they want to do. I think it's a great moniker for suppliers to ask GDSs for lower fees. And I think it's starting to achieve that goal. Yeah. But I don't know that.
But there's a retailing premise. I mean, it is airline product, after all. It gives them the ability to merchandise how they want to do and not be commoditized.
So I just haven't seen someone was on here before, I think from Amadeus, and they were talking about being the plumbers of the industry. I've seen the outer end of it, but I haven't seen the plumbing that goes with it yet. So for instance, when we go around and ask airlines, here's something a little controversial, we go and ask airlines and say, well, you'd like to have a direct connection to our travel agency, and we'd like to do that.
To Amex, saying
Sure, Amex or any of the agencies we own. We'd like to do that. And then we ask the airlines two simple questions. When would you like to be shopped? And they say all the time. And then you explain to the person who makes that decision how Amadeus, Sabre, and Travelport polling fees work, and they'll actually pay more money than they do today to be shopped all the time in look-to-book ratios and polling fees. And literally the airlines have never heard of that before.
So where do you think it will go? Because I don't think there's that many more skeptics in 2019 that a transformation is.
I think there's going to be a transformation. I would like someone to tell me what it is. So the first question is, when would you like to be shopped? And the airlines can't tell me that. The other question is, how would you like to be displayed? And so you want to sit in the middle of a fight between Lufthansa, BA, and Air France about who's going to go and what level on the display because once I take all these things in, I have to integrate them into a common display. Right. For me, this is fantastic news, right? Because I'm the only agency in the world that can afford to spend this money. Nobody else has the capital.
I think it's a little different from where you sit.
Yeah, it's fantastic. Yeah. So I hope it costs everybody $1 billion. Because if it does, I'll be the only one with it, and they'll have created a global monopoly.
Yeah.
And that would be fine with me.
Are you an airline who just let? No.
Yeah. I tell them, this isn't the first time I've said what I just said.
Trip action.
Wow. Wow is the best word there. So, I don't have all the data on it. I haven't seen any of the stuff. But, a $4.3 billion valuation, if what you read in the paper is correct, that was a B round, I think. So if you were expecting 10 times your money on that round, that would value TripAction's expected exit in the $45 billion range. That would be more money than all the other TMCs are worth together today.
Yeah. There's probably only one, and I think you could throw suppliers in there. I mean, Amadeus is what, 18, 19 billion? I mean, only Booking Holdings really.
Amadeus is up there.
Yeah.
Booking is up there.
That's double Expedia.
Yeah, it's big. Expedia is a great business too. I think the people at Expedia don't get near enough credit for what they've built and what they do. It's got a fantastic management team, and one of the things I like about Expedia is as you go around the audience and you meet the talented people who are working in other travel businesses, more often than not, they worked at Expedia sometime in their career.
Yeah, the alumni network from Expedia is very, very.
Yeah, I'm a huge fan. Everyone knows that. I'm
impressive.
a huge fan of Expedia.
So let's stick with TripAction a bit. So putting aside hypervaluations, I mean, we could have a hypervaluation discussion with 300 companies.
Yeah.
Now, so there's something there. But when you say, I mean, in corporate travel, TMC space, TripAction's like the first company in ages to enter with, and seems to be getting some traction. Do you think they are?
That is a good question. So we don't really worry, like TripAction certainly has generated the most press. So if your valuation is related to their press or their success is related to their press, and I think to a certain extent it is, I think they've done a great job at promoting themselves. Do
you think there are any products, technical features that privately at Amex are saying, well, that's pretty cool, good, kudos for them, or they're solving a problem that people have talked about forever and never quite gotten there?
No, I don't think any of those. I think they've got a super slick user interface, and we can all take lessons from people's user interface. I don't know that they solve a particular problem. Remember that business travel stuff that we develop is not designed in general to enable, right? This is probably inappropriate for me to say, but it's not designed to enable people. It's designed to inhibit behavior, right? Yeah. So Philip wants to go and stay at the Plaza Athénée in Paris. The tools we have are designed to prevent you from doing that, right? Or prevent you from booking flights, or prevent you from you have to follow company policy, right?
Got it.
So, for instance, if you developed a bulk purchasing organization product that allowed you to purchase pencils, right? You would have to purchase the pencils that the company wants. If you developed a new product that let you purchase anything you want and was light on rules, it wouldn't be very successful.
So speaking of Paris, so with Amex recently acquiring HRG, which was, they were number 4 at the time or something like that. That really strengthens your European footprint. Is it reasonable to expect you'd like to do something like that over time in Asia and Latin America, or?
So, right now Certares manages about $9 billion of AUM, and it's all invested in the travel industry.
AUM for the audience?
Sorry, assets under management.
Yep.
So that's the amount of money we manage that have been invested in the travel business. That's going to grow over time to the 20, 30, 40 billion dollar range. As we keep executing our strategy, we'll get bigger and bigger. Some of those portfolio companies will get bigger. Listen, GBT by no means is done making acquisitions. It's not done making investments. One of the things that I wish you people would write about once in a while is we've spent close to $600 million on technology. Every single system at GBT is brand new in the last 4 years. That includes the phone system, the network, the back office accounting system. That includes everything. And so like little things are easy for us to do. Like when you phone us from your cell phone and the call drops, when you call back, we can route you to the same agent that you were just talking to because we have.
That would be refreshing.
Yeah, it is. Well, we do it. And we pick up, when you're searching for something, we're the only company that has, and this is, I'm not trying to do a GBT commercial, but for instance, we're the only global TMC that is enabled messaging. Our messaging traffic since the beginning of 2019 has grown 700%. So I don't know how much messaging traffic TripAction is doing, but not nearly that much, right? And so we're spending, TripAction's raised, to give you an idea, $480 million. We spent 600 million on technology that is above the base level of the stuff TripAction's having to build.
So intersecting $9 billion under management, we talked about hypervaluations. I wanted to get to Masa-san, SoftBank's Vision Fund. So he's amassed a war chest of over $100 billion, invested in 88 companies. A lot of that, originally, when he invested in Alibaba, there were 30-something employees.
Yeah.
He put 20 million in and got 90 billion back, 4,500.
I'm looking for that one soon. I hope I get one of those soon.
But $64 billion raised last year in total private equity. So he's got a fund bigger than the entire private equity business, at least so far. So, and now, once a kingmaker, he's had a lot of headwinds with WeWork and Slack and Compass and Didi and Ola. So it's got to affect the climate, the environment of being a professional investor, no?
No.
Why is that?
So, listen, he's invested in all kinds of things, some of them smart, some of them not so smart, right? And I think if we all could go back and do something, redo our last 6 months or redo our last 2 years, we'd do different things. I think he's got a couple particular very high profile investments that I think he said his investment decision was regrettable, if what he did.
Yeah,
At WeWork.
I heard that somebody had to twist his arm to make that concession.
It's tough to make that decision, or that concession. But I think WeWork is a standalone item. He's going to take a lot of hits about the head and shoulders for the next little while. He's extremely bright. He's extremely affable. He's shown a lot of good judgment in the past. No reason to think why that's not going to return.
Some people say he'll bounce back. Greg, what are you bullish on right now, and what are you bearish on right now as you look at companies?
So I think it's no secret for most of you. I think one of the trends in travel that's never going to go away, not going to go away for the foreseeable future, is wellness, right? And so we're spending a lot of time and effort around the wellness area. Any of you got anything for sale in wellness, please give us a call. We spend a lot of time in eco-adventure. So we spend a lot of time in eco-adventure, and those two things those two initiatives, just as an example, support the demographic change that we're finding in the West, right? So what you're finding is people over 55, and I'm not trying to have a exact age. People over 55 are spending they have more disposable income than they've ever had, and they're spending it on different things. So they're not buying Rolexes, they're actually selling their second homes, they're doing all these things, and they're spending it on travel and experiences. So take advantage of that. The other issue is at the other end of the spectrum, we have a class of people under 30 who may never own a house, who may never own a car, they don't have capital requirements, and so they're spending the highest percentage they've ever spent on travel.
Yeah.
We got the chance.
Maybe we'll get you back next year for an update on that.
Okay.
Cool. Ladies and gentlemen, Greg O'Hara, thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks, Philip.
Thanks a lot. Appreciate it.